Greetings and felicitations.
Okay, here comes the first round.
Boom.
And
Jeez, that was just
boom.
unnecessary.
You kidding me? He can't be out of range? What?
Greetings and felicitations, YouTube. You're all the Appian Way here, and we got some patch notes. 1.5.1.1 came out today, unexpectedly, and it features a lot of improvements that myself and other members of our Troy multiplayer community have been asking for. So it really feels good to see this update out there, because it shows that Creative Assembly Sophia is listening and paying attention to what the people want, and they're open, they're communicative, and it's awesome. So I'm going to go item by item through the patch notes and talk about just what we're going to see here, alright? So the overall changes include range damage for archer-type units, range damage for missile chariots, and adjusted cost of minions specifically for multiplayer battles. Now, those specific changes include all missile chariots have had their base ranged damage and base ranged armor piercing damage increased by roughly 10 to 15%. Javelin chariots have had their missile range increased by 10 meters. All bow units have had their ranged armor piercing damage increased by roughly 15%. Now, that is deceptive, because I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference in the end as far as if bowmen, which are featured here on the screen, are going to be worth bringing. We're talking about bringing less than a point worth of damage per arrow, okay? That's all we're talking about here. They got a buff from 4 armor piercing to 5, all right? So don't get too excited yet. All chariot mounts for archer-type heroes and horse mounts for archer-type heroes have had their cost in custom battles increased by another 100 funds. This is significant because right now the archer hero on a chariot or on a horse is really, really good. Very good, especially for killing off elite infantry for enemy troops. Island Skirmishers and Heavy Island Skirmishers from the Ithacan roster have had their cost in custom battles reduced by 60. This is good. They're all right units. They're not as good as the Renowned Island Skirmisher, but it's good to see that their costs brought down. Trojan Princes from Paris's roster has had their cost in custom battles reduced by 150. This is actually one of our recommendations, and I'm glad to see it in here. Sirens have had their cost in custom battles reduced by 80. They now only cost 670. And for the low cost of 670 funds, you too can delete any 3 units from your enemy's army if you use that taunt right, okay? Remember that. Trojan Slingers have had their cost in custom battles reduced by 50. Slingers have had their cost in custom battles reduced by 40. And those are the Slingers from both the Hector and the Paris roster. Exemplary Trojan Slingers from Paris has had their cost in custom battles increased by 80. Amazon Champion Chariot units from Hippolyta's roster are now limited to 4 in custom battles, so you cannot spam bring 12 or 10 of them or whatever like you could before. Oathsworn have had their morale increased by 5 from the Amazon roster. Coronites and Argive Axemen, this is Amazon and Argos, have had their armor-piercing damage increased from 16 to 19. Coronites have had their melee defense increased from 31 to 35. Labrys Infantry have had their base morale increased from 50 to 57. Stigonores have had their health increased by 15%. Stigonores have had their base morale increased from 45 to 50. Stigonores now have 10 bonus versus swordsmen. Daughters of Ares from Pedestalia have had their base morale increased from 58 to 65. And this is a huge buff. Hippomcoi, the best heavy cavalry unit in the game, have had their health increased by 15%, have had their armor increased by 5 to 55. These are huge. Antoniirae have had their armor increased from 35 to 45. Antoniirae have had their cost in custom battles reduced from 1230 to 1170. Champions of Troy have had their armor increased from 100 to 105, and they've had their cost reduced from 1400 to 1350. Heavy shock spears no longer have the weapon stats of a one-handed spear and now have the correct weapon stats for a two-handed spear unit, which I love. Guards of Troy have had their health increased by 10%. Renowned Swordsmen have had their armor increased from 55 to 60. Hector's Chosen have had their melee attack increased from 40 to 45. Club Warrior, that was all Hector's buffs, like right there. Infantry buffs across the board, which is really important for them. If they're not going to be cheap, they need to have the benefit of of really, really good, reliable stats. Club Warriors from Mycenae and Argos. They've had their cost in custom battles increased by 40 points to 790. Okay, I understand. I thought they were in a good place where they were, but it's understandable. Lots of people pick them. Agamemnon's Guard and Agamemnon's Companions have had their cost in custom battles reduced by 100. Light Spearrunners from Sparta have had their cost in custom battles increased from 800 to 860. Not a significant impact, but important. It shows that they know that everybody's taking all of those Spearrunners when they can. Dardanian Mob have had their cost in custom battles increased from 200 to 230. Shucks. But, oh, what's this? Dardanian Rabble have had their cost in custom battles decreased from 250 to 210. Long live the Dardanian Rabble. Down with the Dardanian Mob bourgeoisie. It's all about the rabble now. Rabble forever and ever. Night Runners from Argos have had their cost in custom battles increased from 580 to 640. That's appropriate. I mean, they were really fragile as they were, but okay, I definitely get that they've increased their cost. And that's it. Those are the balance updates. But what I love about this, what I absolutely love about this, rests in how much work we did to see some of these changes come to fruition. So like I was saying, a lot of these changes came straight out of our own feedback. We made Reddit posts and Total War forum posts called Balance Assembly Suggestions for Total War Saga and Troy Multiplayer. And we released them, 2 factions at a time with a lot of our suggestions. Here are some of our suggestions that we had made for Hippolyta and Pedestalia. For instance, we suggested that the Coronites should perform better. A little bit more morale, a little bit more armor-piercing damage. They're killing frontline. They deal below average damage and tend to rout fast. Well, when you look at the changes and you scroll down here to Coronites, look what we have here. Coronites and Argivax have had their armor piercing increased from 16 to 19. They've had their melee defense increased from 31 to 35. Plenty of our suggestions were approached and looked at and given credence by this lovely little update here. So I'm very happy and very proud of the work that we've done with Balance Assembly. If you're interested in being a part of this growing Total War multiplayer community for Troy specifically, there's a link to our Discord in the description. We've been doing a lot of work there. There's always people there willing to play games with you and to talk about theory crafting builds and to come up with ideas on how to rebalance things as well. So do come check us out, all right? That's it for today's episode. I'm going to have more battle replays for you coming soon to cover more from 1.5.1.1. It's a mouthful. And I'm looking forward to showing it to you. Subscribe so you don't miss out on it, alright? Ta-ta, I love you all, and I'll see you guys in my next video.